Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, I'll be reintroducing our 69 Chevrolet Chevelle back to the channel. This is something my wife and I have been really looking forward to for quite some time because the first video I filmed on this, well, actually the only video I filmed on this was from a couple years or so ago. I put a link in the description if you'd like to check it out, but this car holds a lot of sentimental value to my wife because it used to belong to her grandmother who drove it for many years. We have all the original documents and stuff for it. It's really cool. I'll show you guys that in just a moment, but it also sat for many years. We actually got it a few years ago with the end goal of hopefully creating a project series on the channel for everybody to check out. But if you follow me on social media, you'll know that the last few years have been a little busy, I guess you could say. It's probably a massive understatement, but aside from just the whole gamut of stuff in life, we've been in the middle of moving and building a house for what seems like forever now. But the light is at the end of the tunnel. We hope to be move-in ready in the next couple months or so. So between me getting the majority of the hard stuff done on the S10 that I've been building, I think this is a good time to finally reintroduce this car and, you know, sometime this summer, dive into a project series. And yes, I have other projects. I still have the 240. This is something I've been really wanting to work on forever now, and I think I'm finally there. So before I can do any of that stuff, I wanted to put the car on the lift for the first time and create an open discussion where I give you guys a deep dive into the car, give you an update as to how it is currently, show you some of the problem areas, talk about some of the ideas that Crystal and I had for the car, and see what you guys think. You know, type of content, amount of content, whatever, post it in the comments below. Let's have some fun. I also need to do a much needed oil change because, believe it or not, we still drive this car as much as we can. You know, it doesn't look like much, but it actually drives pretty good for being over 50 years old. But anyway, so without further ado, let's get it on the lift and get started. I'd like to extend huge shout outs to Original Parts Group, O'Reilly Auto Parts, and Valvoline for supporting this project. It's going to be an incredible journey. I hope to learn a lot, have some fun, and create something unique at the end of the day. Be sure to support those who support the channel. Everybody's links can be found in the description box below. Thanks a bunch. I suppose now is as good a time as any to go ahead and knock out this oil change. The car only has a little over 80,000 original miles. It's powered by a 307 V8 coupled to a 2-speed Powerglide automatic transmission. Even though I do plan on replacing the powertrain with something more modern and powerful, of course fuel injected, I do want to take care of the original powertrain as best I can because, all things considered, it's in phenomenal working order. The engine and trans leak like a sieve, but as long as you keep the fluids topped off, it makes for a pretty nice cruiser. That being said, my oil of choice with this car, just like my other projects, has been Valvoline VR1. It's a high-performance racing oil, which may seem overkill in something like this, but what I really like about it is that it has high zinc and phosphorus content for added wear protection. I run it in the RB25 240SX, the flat tappet cam, and the 350 swapped S10. I even have it in my 48 Ford Super Deluxe because the flathead V8 requires an oil with a high zinc content. But if you're using it in a performance application, it's compatible with both gasoline and alcohol fuels. It has anti-foaming properties when put under high stress, and of course there's additional friction modifiers in there for more extreme applications. Be sure to check out all of Valvoline's current offerings at O'Reilly Auto Parts via the link below. Also, don't forget to take advantage of the exclusive discount code SOBKyle20, which gets you 20% off of purchases of $100 or more. Thanks so much for the support. Alright, let's go ahead and take a closer look. The whole reason why I wanted to get the car on the lift is to get somewhat of an idea of some of the parts that I need to go ahead and start sourcing. It'll definitely help with planning content in the future and hopefully help me circumvent inevitable back orders, because that's just something to be expected. But as far as what I can tell up front here, the car is actually really clean. Obviously, there's only so much that I'm actually able to see without taking the car apart, but I'm not quite ready to go down that road just yet. But the core support looks pretty good down here. The frame is extremely clean. A little bit of surface rust, but I would say this frame is in about the same condition the S10 was before I started redoing it. This is very nice. There's still quite a bit of factory undercoating on the body and frame rails. I'm actually surprised it's this clean considering the car probably sat outside for 3 decades. The floor pan doesn't have any rot except for the driver's floor pan and one pinhole on the passenger floor pan. The trunk pan is also rotted out, but that's another story that we'll dive into in just a little bit. But I think any of the areas of rot on the underside just have to do with water leaking into the interior. Here's the passenger side floor pan. In comparison, you only have one little hole right there that could be easily patched, but the structure of the floor pan as a whole is very solid. Now we're in front of the driver's floor pan right behind the wheel. Up top there, you can probably just see the shift linkage. The metal from the floor pan going up the firewall towards the brake master cylinder also looks really good. There is some surface rust. A lot of that's probably just from coming in contact with brake fluid over the years, but nothing a good thorough cleaning and rust treatment, painting, and all that kind of stuff couldn't fix. On the passenger side, same area going up, no rust at all. The rocker panels on both sides of the car appear to be in very good condition. As I move towards the back of the car, I don't see any evidence of rust or anything forming like little pinholes and whatnot. The floor pans are very, very solid, and they continue to be solid all the way up towards the trunk. You really can't ask for much more than that, so from just looking at this right now, I don't foresee having to do any major repairs, which I'm very thankful of, because there's plenty of other areas on the car that need to be repaired. Being that I do plan on swapping out the original powertrain for something more modern and powerful, I want to make sure the underpinnings of the car are upgraded accordingly. So I'm tentatively planning on replacing the entire factory suspension with a more modern setup with probably coilovers, tubular control arms in front, boxed sections out back. It'll ride better as far as the overall stability. Of course, it'll handle better, and it'll be a lot stronger. I definitely want to swap in a quick ratio steering box to give the steering some much needed feel and make it a lot more responsive. I'll be approaching the restoration similar to how I did the S10. I'm going to strip the car all the way down and pull the body off the frame and basically rebuild it from the ground up. Instead of stripping down the frame myself like I did on the S10, I'm probably just going to take it somewhere to have it fully blasted and powder coated, just to do something a little bit different instead of making a tremendous mess in the shop. Plus, it'll be a lot more durable than if I just bedlined and painted it. As far as stopping power, this car has 4-wheel manual drum brakes, which for what it is, honestly doesn't bother me. We had the brakes redone when we first got the car a few years ago, but with everything else that I'm going to be doing to the car, I think it's going to be very smart to just swap all of that stuff out and just go to 4-wheel disc brakes. Unfortunately, there's going to be quite a lot of stuff going on back here as far as rust repair. It doesn't look too bad from this angle, but when you start looking inside the trunk and up top, it yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So the biggest problem with restoring a sedan is the simple fact that there aren't quite as many parts available for them like you would find for two-doors, because two-doors are just more desirable as far as restorations and value and all of that stuff. But this was a family car. We enjoy the fact that it's a sedan just because you don't see a whole lot of them, and I just think it's going to be unique at the end of the day, so we're just going to have some fun with it. Here's the worst area of the whole car, and it's going to be the most challenging thing to fix. This rear window is almost completely rotted out. There's barely any metal holding it on the sides, and practically the entire shelf pan right there is just gone. What's really nice is that Original Parts Group pretty much offers every single piece of replacement metal you would ever need to rebuild one of these cars. It doesn't matter how crusty your car is. They even offer full bodies, which is really, really cool. Again, a lot of the replacement stuff is going to be for two-doors, but there's enough similarities between the two-doors and the four-doors that I think we should be able to make just about anything work. The thing is, everything from the A-pillars forward is the same between a two-door and a four-door. Obviously, everything in the middle here is specific to the four-door, but I'm pretty sure there's some point in the rear quarter where the sedan body would match up to a two-door body because of other similarities back here, like the trunk lids are the same and the tail panels are the same. Now, I could be completely wrong about the rear quarter situation, but like a lot of things in life, you just kind of gotta figure it out as you go. But one thing that kind of leads me to believe that there are similarities is that upon closer investigation, my buddy Joe and I were actually looking back here, and it appears the driver's side rear quarter had been replaced at some point just because of, you know, welding and cuts and stuff. So I guess the car had gotten into some sort of accident in the past. Another thing that kind of confirmed the panel replacement is this rear wheel arch. The factory spot welds are not there like they are on the other side. There's some other welds, probably MIG welds or something like that, where it looks like it was too hot and it just burned right through the metal. You see all the ridges and divots in there. I thought it was rust, but it's actually just burned away metal. And there's a crack in the panel right here where it wasn't joined to the rest of the body properly. So there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. There's a little bit of rust down there. It might just be easier or better in the long run, not easier, just to replace this whole panel and start from scratch. Here's the inside of that rear quarter. You can see where the two panels match up and it was welded. It also looks like some of these tail panel braces were welded back. If you look on the other side, you don't see two pieces of metal overlapping each other with a whole bunch of spot welds. This is an original panel. As far as the rest of the trunk, the pan is pretty much Swiss cheese in spots, so the whole thing probably just needs to be replaced. And all of the weather strip retaining channels across the sides, down here where it meets into the tail panel, and up top with that filler panel, they're all rotten out. But all of that stuff is available as well, so hopefully it will make getting all that back in order a little bit easier. The fact that the car still has its original dealer tag is just really cool. We're not sure what we're going to do with it yet, if we're going to re-chrome it and reattach it or not, but you know, it's just a nice little piece of history. I do find it really amazing that they actually used to screw the dealer tags into the trunk lids. I mean, that's just wild. So I've talked about swapping the engine, but what are the actual plans? So if you guys have been keeping up with some of the recent S10 content, I mentioned that I actually do not have the S10 crew cab anymore. I decided to pass that back over to my friend Joseph, who is building it in his free time. I wanted to free myself up to be able to do this car because, like I said at the beginning, I've been really looking forward to this for a really long time, and I just didn't want to burn the channel out or burn myself out on S10 content. I just think this car is going to be so much fun. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a fun process. That being said, a lot of the powertrain stuff that I had already bought for the crew cab is going to be going in this car. I'll share some more details on the new powertrain when I get a little closer to starting the series, but as far as a little snapshot, the car will be getting an LS as well as a whole bunch of performance goodies like trick flow cylinder heads, an upgraded cam, Holley Sniper fuel injection, and more. Those of you who did follow the Crew Cab series for the handful of videos that I've made on it, you probably remember that I picked up a 6-liter LQ9 for it. I also have a 4L80E automatic transmission. I was going to use this in the Chevelle, but I'm going to do a little bit extra. It's going to be similar, but extra, so stay tuned. Aside from all the issues out back, the body is in pretty decent order. The front fenders have some rot, there's some surface rust here and there, but nothing looks too crazy. Depending on how gnarly all the repairs get with the back of the car, I'll probably just replace what I'm able to replace and, hopefully minimize the amount of fabbing and patchwork that has to be done. At the end of the day, my wife and I want to keep the car looking as original as possible on the surface, so when you walk by it or you climb inside, it's going to look like a nicely restored Chevelle with some tasteful upgrades. It really is the best of both worlds, being able to preserve the original character of the car, but the powertrain and underpinnings have all been upgraded to modern standards, so you can actually daily drive it if you wanted to, especially since it's a 4-door. You got all that extra room and you got a large trunk. This is a sweet car. By keeping the restoration aspect a primary focus throughout this build, we can really bring the car back to its original glory. I've received tons of messages as far as what we should do with the outside, but I think keeping and preserving that originality is going to make the biggest statement. That being said, the only thing that I do plan on changing on the outside is the wheels. I'm not sure what I'm wanting to do, but I want to do some larger wheels and wider wheels for more traction and extra space to fit some beefier brakes at all 4 corners. I've also had suggestions to keep the whole patina look, leave the rust and all that as it is, but as you've seen, there's a lot that really needs to be repaired, and I just don't think that's a viable option, and I just don't think the whole patina look really fits in with the end goals of this car. So again, trying to keep the focus on originality. We might even repaint it the original color, but there's still plenty of time to figure that out. The same thing goes for the interior. I do think there is room for improvement here and there, but we definitely don't want to, again, take away the originality because it's a very simple, no-nonsense design. I like the fact that there's manual windows. I like the bench seat. That is definitely staying. It's just a nice interior. I have noticed, looking throughout the interior, that most of, if not all of the trim panels are in phenomenal shape. Like, I should be able to just reuse and repurpose a lot of pieces inside of here, which is awesome. Anything that's worn out is available, reproduction or, otherwise, so that's pretty nice. I don't foresee this being too difficult. I love restoring interiors. That's one of the most fun parts. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so because there's a lot more content where that came from. I still have a whole lot of work to do to plan out this series and start ordering parts and, all that fun stuff, and then it'll be time to tear into it. Of course, I'll keep you guys updated all throughout the process. Follow the social platforms to get all the updates in between. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.